Morning, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earth Watch on Tuesday, June 27, 2023 on our planet. Hope you're all well. Just want to have a little bit of a brief talk about solar cycles. Before I do, I watched a gentleman called Steve from Integrated Preparedness. And Steve has a habit of slurping his coffee. It's fine. And he, people make comments how they don't like it, you know. We're approaching very difficult times, but there's weenies who complain about little habits. So he does that on purpose to weed out the weenies, as he says. For me, this is for the lady who doesn't like me playing my music while I'm driving and having a talk. That's for you, lady. My door is always open. Either way. Anyway, let's get into it. Solar cycles. I made a posting about a year ago explaining solar cycles. So our sun has cycles, as with all things on life, including a standard 11-year solar cycle where it starts off what's called solar minimum, with the least solar output. Camera backwards. So starts off with solar minimum, reaches up to solar maximum, and then descends back down into solar minimum again. It's a standard 11-year cycle. However, what a lot of people are not mentioning, and I have over the years, is sometimes our solar cycle is not 11 years, people. As been recorded in history, it's been a few as long as 13.5 years. However, there has been a very few solar cycles that have been 9 years. So do not automatically assume we're going to reach solar maximum in 2025. All right, folks, we can possibly reach that now, not in 2 more years. Now, the tail end of a solar cycle, the last half of a solar cycle, is very important. You cannot predict how strong this solar cycle is going to be based on counting the number of sunspots for the first half only. I'll explain. Hang on, this is for the lady who doesn't like me talking while I'm driving. Okay, pull off here. There you go. So the tail end, coming off a solar maximum, it's like a roller coaster. We can have a very, very gradual, easy decline coming down. Nice and easy. Or we could have a sudden drop off the last half of this solar cycle. So we can reach the deep solar minimum by 2027, 2028. Okay. Not necessarily 2030, 2031. It's also important to remember that a grand solar minimum is defined as 3 consecutive solar cycles, each with decreasing solar output. So 1 solar maximum, or 1 solar cycle, the next solar cycle, the next solar cycle. So let's talk about catastrophic earthquakes and volcanic eruptions during grand solar minimum and grand minima. It is also believed that during the down end, the bottom of the last descending solar cycle before going more or less flatline, before we go into grand solar minimum, that is when our catastrophic earthquakes and volcanic eruptions happen. I'll give you some examples. The Maunder minimum, which was 1645 to 1715, the Cascadia subduction zone went off on January 26, 1700. Estimated to be a 9+ megathrust earthquake. Cascadia subduction zone from Northern California all the way up into British Columbia, north tip of Vancouver Island. That was the Maunder minimum. Then we had a grand minima, the Dalton minimum from around 1790 to around 1830. So we had a series of events that happened then. The New Madrid earthquake, estimated to be an 8+. There were 2 pairs of earthquakes, folks. The first started on December 16, 1811. Then in the following year, the following month, that January, we had 2 more New Madrid earthquakes. Then we had the Tambora eruption in Indonesia on April 1815, resulting in the following year without summer, 1816. So I just want to do a brief video. Don't assume we have another 2 years before we reach solar maximum. Okay. There's a very good indication based on what Sol, our sun, is telling us right now with the flaring activity and filament eruptions. We could very well be at solar maximum right now and remaining there for, who knows, maybe only another year before we drop off like a rock going off a cliff. Okay. Just want to do that short video, okay, explaining solar cycles. It's not always 11 years. A few have been 13.5 years, but they also have been as short as 9 years. Okay. So, some information for you, what everybody else is not telling you. All right. Have a swell day, eh?